So, Pat, I want to talk about something really quick. The ACC is just a wacky world, but as a sports anchor, I'm sure you get this a lot. A lot of people always ask, what do you think is going to happen? And I'm always reluctant to answer that because we really don't know. You can make all the predictions in the world about what you think will happen, and sometimes the opposite will happen. If you would have asked me about NC State and Carolina, I would have said NC State would have won. They would have pulled away at the end, 34-17. Nope, Carolina never in it. 42-19, and that 19 really 6 garbage points at the end. And then, is Duke going to make it to the ACC championship game? No, they're not. It's an outside chance. They have to win, and some other things have to go their way. Well, they won, and everything went their way. What a wacky Saturday we had in the ACC.
What a wacky Saturday. What a wacky year. I mean, this isn't just triangle football. This might as well be Bermuda Triangle football.
Good.
Like if you step,
like that.
hey,
like that.
I'm a writer, podcaster now.
That's the name of this episode.
If you step back from a second, we are coming on basically the anniversary closing in here on Bill Belichick being hired.
Yeah.
It all started last year at Thanksgiving when Mac Brown got fired after the Boston College lost, and then Bill Belichick's name gets thrown into the mix, and then the rest is now history as we have a season here where I think a lot of us thought Duke would be the best team in the triangle, short of Bill Belichick, being the second coming of Nick Saban in college football, which did not happen. More on that in a second. And then we also had all the stuff with Dave Doran possibly retiring or Dave Doran getting fired. And after this resounding NC State win over UNC, compounded with the wins over Georgia Tech and Florida State and Virginia, Dave Doran ain't going anywhere.
No, I mean, he did what he's supposed to do. He's taking the team to a bowl, and also he beat Carolina. I mean, what more can you ask? He didn't just beat Carolina. He absolutely destroyed Carolina. Again, this game wasn't as close as the 42-19 result would suggest. Yeah. Here's one of the things I thought was very interesting from this game. It did feel like Carolina was trying to lean on Gio Lopez in his arm a little bit more, especially after the success he had versus Duke. But it just wasn't enough because the run game wasn't there all day for Carolina. NC State stopped the run, and at one point, I think when the first half ended, NC State ran 45 plays. Carolina only had 23, almost doubled them up in plays that were ran, and that was just one of the things that it stood out. It was like stuck out like a sore thumb in this game, just mainly because Carolina couldn't stay on the field. NC State stayed on the field and didn't punt until the second half. And then, they probably still would have gone for it and made it on fourth down. But this team wasn't in it. It felt like maybe the guys had given up. The guys who were going to hit the portal knew they were going to hit the portal and just didn't show up.
And what is this now? The 5th straight win for NC State in this rivalry, I believe. Yeah. And you got to think just the way the schedule works out for UNC just does not favor them in this game. Because it's not like what happened to Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels in this game is anything new. It reminds me a little bit of Drake May's final year where they played a great, thrilling, I think it was an overtime game versus Duke. And then they came in and laid a complete egg here in a way that was, it's one thing for Gio Lopez and this offense to sputter. Well, they've sputtered all year. Yeah. For that Drake May offense to have really no answers against the Wolfpack really puzzled me and still puzzles me to this day. So I think some of it is just the spot. UNC's had to pour it out here the last couple of weeks. They go on the road to Wake Forest, their first chance at a rivalry game. They struggle offensively out there. They play much better against Duke, really looked like they could win that game. Yeah. Took the lead, going into the fourth quarter, and then it all falls apart on them on that fake field goal from Todd Polino. And in this game, to your point, they were never in it. And I think probably the most concerning thing, if you are a Tar Heel fan and you were hoping for better days ahead with Bill Belichick in this program, is that the defense collapsed.
Yeah.
Will Wilson and the quarterbacks, not the running backs, the quarterbacks ran all over them.
If you're if you're Carolina, you would hope that a lot of your defense comes back. You would also hope that maybe you can retain Damon June, who really didn't have a good game today. But also maybe you can retain Jordan Shipp. Those are probably some building pieces right there on offense, but there's still so much work to do. Bill Belichick talked about last year they got a late start. He wasn't hired terribly late, but he hired his staff in late. It was they were late getting to recruits and things like that, so they didn't get into guys that they really needed to get into. he's got to really regroup right now and start talking to people if he hasn't already started talking to folks that he wants to bring into Carolina. I would hope that has already began for them. For NC State, this puts them in a great position. They hosted so many high school recruits, and there's some high school recruits that both teams are looking at. Should I go to Carolina? Should I go to NC State? NC State really showed up. The atmosphere is amazing here, best in the triangle, but then also look at the resounding win over Bill Belichick. That's something I'm sure that could sway some folks if you had the opportunity to choose between both NC State and Carolina.
And look, Dave Doran, there's a reason he's been here for 13 seasons, probably about to be a 14th. He wins the games he needs to win. Now, of course, you'd want to have a few more. You know, every year there's a game like this year, it would be Miami and Notre Dame, where you'd love to see him rise up to beat a truly elite team. But he's beaten Clemson in the past. And this season, he beat a ranked Georgia Tech team in here. Field storm, probably the high of the season if it wasn't this Carolina game. They beat Florida State. They beat Virginia. They beat Virginia before they were Virginia, and they beat Carolina. So what hurts you, though, is like what this season could have been, because they had the 3-0 start.
Yeah.
And it's really, to me, probably that Virginia Tech loss that stings the most. And Duke, too, which was winnable. So if you flip those around, you know, they beat themselves against Duke, I thought. You have a very different year and a very different conversation. But ultimately, I feel very positive about where we end here.
9-win season, honestly, if they were to do that. And that means they're going to Charlotte next weekend, possibly getting 10 games. And then maybe you're talking about, are they going to the CFP as a 9-3 team? For sure going to go to a big-time bowl game, if not the CFP. So, 2 winnable games, and that's kind of where it lands. I mean, that's the difference between being on a national stage and not. Speaking about being on a national stage, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Duke needed to beat Wake Forest. There's 3 different scenarios at play. They needed SMU to lose to Cal. They needed Pitt to lose to Miami. Pitt losing to Miami seemed like the more plausible thing to happen. SMU losing to Cal, not really. I didn't think it was going to happen until it did.
Yeah.
And now Duke is going to the ACC championship game against Virginia at the beginning of the year. What do you think the ACC title game is going to look like?
I probably would have told you certainly Miami. And then really up for there was, SMU, Florida State, probably Florida State, Louisville. Yeah, all these teams, a lot of transfer quarterbacks. And gosh, I mean, even up to the end of the year, you would have said Georgia Tech, Virginia were the best teams in the conference. And really, this isn't necessarily about the best teams getting in this game. It's just kind of like the 2 that are left standing that kind of lost to the right teams that weren't. I mean, you even look at it like, was NC State versus Virginia a conference game this year? I don't think it was.
It was a non-conference game.
Right? So that's how Virginia's in there. And then we got to go into this other scenario, which is the nightmare scenario here for the ACC, which is Duke winning this conference title, not getting in the college football playoff because they have 5 losses, and the automatic bids go to the 5 highest ranked conference champions. Yeah. And the American champ is going to be in, whoever that is. They have several teams that are right on the borderline of being ranked. Right now it's Tulane. But then it's like, well, who's going to be that 5th team?
Yeah.
And it's going to be either, I guess, Duke or James Madison if they win the Sun Belt. James Madison right now, 11-1.
Duke played Virginia early as one of their 5 losses this year. They lost 34-17, I believe, was the final score to that. And when they did lose in games, outside of take away UConn, take away Tulane, when they lost to Illinois, when they lost to Georgia Tech, when they lost to Virginia, turnovers galore. It just seemed like they would just fumble the ball, and the ball would always go the other opposite way for touchdowns. You got to think there is an outside chance that they could win that game at the ACC championship if they just hold on to the ball, because really that's what a lot of those games kind of came down to for the Blue Devils. And we talked about NC State. If you had taken care of Tulane, taken care of UConn, and maybe didn't have the type of game that you had against Georgia Tech and Virginia, and you go to the ACC championship game, you're probably talking about a for sure CFP berth. You don't have to worry about, well, if this happens, then that happens, and maybe we can get in. And there's this whole discussion about whether the ACC deserves to be in it or not. Duke would squarely be in it. I mean, it's interesting how like little small pieces of each game can really make a huge difference in how you're viewed nationally, and that's Duke's problem right now.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to go to Charlotte and try to prove it against a team that they've already lost to by 17 points.
It's a lot of sliding doors, and then just to throw another one in the mix, if they had done all those things you'd be talking about, Manny Diaz would almost assuredly
He'd be
be going to one of these jobs. So in a weird way,
Bye. See you later. I'm going to Florida.
So in a weird way, your program gets the relevance of going to the title game,
Yeah.
has kind of the solace of knowing they truly were that close. And next season, Diaz likely back, unless there's an AD out there that can see through the 5 losses, which, there might be.
To Tulane and UConn, too, by the way.
Yeah, those are tough losses. And Illinois was one where they beat themselves again. But yeah, there's a lot of losses there, just is the ultimate point. But you look at what Duke could be. They could be possibly in the college football playoff. They could return Diaz. They could return Darian Mensah and do this thing right next season. Right now, it looks like all 3 of our Triangle coaches are coming back in what could be just another Bermuda Triangle-like season here, with now the heat turned up tremendously on Bill Belichick. I think that's kind of like ultimately the takeaway from year one, is that unless there was some, true smoking gun, that extended beyond the things that we've reported about as far as like culture issues, communication issues, the lack of, the NFL model being implemented. Like, there was a true smoking gun, they would maybe fire him. But I think ultimately there was just too much commitment to him financially and by the stakeholders that brought him here, that he wasn't going to be let go. But now next year, anything's on the table if they can't make a major improvement.
But whether Duke wins the ACC title game or not, whether they go to the CFP or not, they won what is called the state championship, and that's something that they're going to have bragging rights for this year. They beat Wake Forest. They beat NC State. They beat Carolina. So they are the winners of the state championship as far as the ACC teams in North Carolina. So that's something that they for sure can hang their hat on. And Darian Mensah was rumored to come here for 2 years, $8 million. Hopefully he's back. Hopefully Nate Shepard is back, and we'll see if what Duke is able to return for next year. And we'll see what Carolina is going to be able to return for next year. That's the program I'm definitely going to be watching when it comes down to the transfer portal.
And we'll see how our wives feel about finding out that we need to cover an ACC title game next week, and we were planning to be off. So
I'm off, honey. Oh, actually, check that. I'm not off anymore. We got it.
Hey, good problems to have for a couple sports anchors. For Chris Lee, I got to go apply for credentials. Let's see if we can get those in before the deadline here on Monday.